Hello, I'm Rebecca Kukla, and welcome to Introduction to Philosophy. I apologize for having to do this first class by video conference. Our National Disciplinary Conference is during the first week of class this year, which is really inconvenient for everybody concerned, and I'm really sorry not to be meeting you in person. Today, all I will do is go over some of the organizational material for the class and get you ready for the more contentful stuff, and then we'll start the class for real next week. So, some organizational matters. The syllabus is already online. Hopefully by now you have found that. It's linked under announcements on Canvas, and it's also in the files on Canvas. You should know that a lot of this class will run off of Canvas, so make sure you have good access to that and that you check whatever email is linked to Canvas regularly. The syllabus has my office hours on it, it has how to contact me, but your teaching assistant who runs your discussion section is really your main point of contact for this class throughout the term. I'm always available whenever you want to talk to me, but because this is a very large class, your teaching assistant will know you better, and that's the first person that you should talk to. There's a lot of people on the waiting list for this class, so I know there's going to be a bit of a scramble during the first week of term, and it doesn't help that we have this conflict with the conference. Do make sure that you go to your discussion section this week, especially if you're trying to get entrance into this class, so that the teaching assistants can help you get organized and see who's there and who isn't. And then next week, just keep coming to class if you want to get in and you're not in already. So come to discussion section this week, come to the regular class next week, go to your discussion section next week, and by then, by the end of the second week, we'll be able to tell how many people are still trying to get into the class and how many people we can let in. In general, going to discussion sections is really important in this class. Your participation grade will be based overwhelmingly on what you do in your discussion section, although you're always more than encouraged to say things during lecture too, although I know it's just hard to talk in a 300-person room. Let's see. Let me go over the requirements for this class just a little bit. Every week on Sunday or Monday morning, you're going to have a reading quiz. The reading quizzes will be available on Canvas. You can do them on your own time. They're open book. They're intended to be very easy. They will just be a small handful of multiple choice questions. Those are just to do a little check-in to make sure that you are at least minimally understanding the readings and understanding what is important in the readings. As long as you've done a good faith effort at getting through the readings, you should do fine on the quiz. If you've never taken a philosophy class, which is most of you, I'm going to warn you in advance, philosophy reading is hard, and I don't really expect you to get the subtleties of it on the first reading before the lecture. What I want is for you to do the reading enough to get some sense of what's going on in it. And then you'll come to lecture and I'll talk about it, and then you'll go to discussion sections and talk about it some more. And by then, you should be able to go back and do the reading more carefully and really understand it. All the readings are short. There's not a lot of pages for this class, so you're usually going to have to do those readings twice, but it still shouldn't add up to too much reading. Just make sure you give yourself time, given the short readings, to really do them thoroughly once or twice, because you're also going to have nearly weekly reflection papers. And unlike the online quizzes, the reflection papers really are going to require that you do a miniature deep dig into the reading. They're only a page long, but they will require you to carefully explicate a quote from the reading, or to summarize and respond to an argument for the reading, or in some way dig into it more deeply than you normally would. So again, to recap, because the quizzes and the reflections are really the main thing that you need to do for this class, every week on Sunday or Monday morning, you're going to need to have your reading done by then in at least a cursory way so that you can do the online quiz, which will be easy. And then during the week, we'll discuss the readings in more detail, and you should be going back and doing a second reading. And then by the end of the week, you should be ready to write your reflection paper, which will require you to do a kind of a deep dig into the reading. The reflection papers aren't quite every week, and also you get to drop your lowest 2 grades. So if there are 1 or 2 that don't go well, that's okay. Also, if there's some week where you're just overwhelmed and you can't get to the reflection paper and you miss one, you've got a little bit of leeway there. So that should be pretty humane. Other than the quizzes and the reflection papers and participating in your discussion sections, the only other thing that you need to do for this class is at some point during the term, you need to pick one of your reflection papers that you were happy about and build it out into a little paper of about 5 pages. That will require probably going and reading 1 or 2 other articles on a similar topic and constructing an actual argument on that topic. For the reflection papers, I'm really not concerned that you have like a definite thesis and an argument and a conclusion. They're only a page long. For the reflection papers, I really just want you to see you thinking and reflecting about the stuff that we're doing that week in class. It's literally just what it sounds like. You're reflecting, you're not constructing a research paper. For the final paper, you're going to take that reflection and you're going to build it into a tight argument, into something that looks like a conventional paper where you set out the problem, you give your thesis, you argue for your thesis, you consider objections to your thesis, you come to a conclusion, and you do that in engagement with the original text plus 1 or 2 other texts. We will help you do that, so don't worry about it for now. Just have it in your mind that you should be thinking about which of your reflections you especially enjoyed and liked. You'll notice if you look at the syllabus that there isn't really a theme or a single theme for this class. It's also not a historical class. I'm focusing entirely on topics that are of contemporary relevance and activity in philosophy. So we're going to go through contemporary puzzles and contemporary arguments, reaching back into maybe the middle of the 20th century, but really not earlier than that. And most of the readings are much newer than that. And I've chosen readings that hopefully will really highlight how you can use the conceptual tools and techniques of philosophy to think about topics of contemporary concern. I didn't want this to be an abstract class. For most of you, it's your first philosophy class. I didn't want it to be a class where you couldn't really see why we should care about these issues. Everything in philosophy interests me, but that's because I'm a philosophy professor and I've had decades to see how everything connects to everything else. I think at the intro level, it's more important that you see how philosophy is relevant to the real world and to pressing concerns that you might actually have right now. So the topics on the syllabus are a bit of a range, not really organized around a single theme, although as you will see, I've broken it into modules, and the modules are really based on different aspects of your life and the world that you might care about. Hopefully, maybe you don't care about all of these things, but hopefully you will care about at least most of these things. So hopefully the readings will be fun for you and the topics will be fun for you. I've really designed it to pick things that I thought would be clear in their significance and interest. Okay, let's see what else do we need to cover. If you go to Canvas, you will also see that I have put up a number of resources on there, and I hope that I've made it so that you can access those easily whenever you want to throughout the term. They're all stacked under announcements right now. There you can see what to do if you have any need for personal support of any kind. So I've put resources there concerning sexual harassment and assault. I've put resources there concerning mental health. I've put resources there concerning disability. But you should also know that my goal in this class is really very much not to hold you to a rigid set of rules or a rigid set of procedures, but rather to figure out with you how to create an environment that makes it easiest for you to engage well with this material, learn this material, and display what it is that you've learned to me for your grade, or to your teaching assistant for your grade. So that means that I'm much, much more flexible than maybe most of your professors are about things like what kinds of accommodations you might need. If you don't feel comfortable going through the disability office concerning an accommodation, or if you don't want to go to a medical doctor concerning an issue you have, please feel free to talk to me or your TA about what you need. Okay, I really am not grading you here on how well you stick to the specific timetable or specific rules on the syllabus. So everything is flexible, but it can only be flexible if you talk to us. So the big rule of this class, the only rule of this class is if you have needs that aren't fitting this syllabus well, just please talk to us. Don't assume that we know what you need. Don't just ghost us and hand in your work 2 weeks later and hope that everything's going to be fine. Talk to us. My late policy is I never take off marks for late work because I'm not grading you on your timing, I'm grading you on your content. And I'm extremely flexible about giving extensions for pretty much any reason that you might need them. You don't even really need to explain yourself to me, but you do need to get organized and ask us in advance for an extension. Don't just disappear on us. If you need a different timing, talk to us at least a couple days in advance. That's the one and only rule, is that if you disappear, you can't just hand in things on random schedule without telling us why. Okay? You need to be in contact with your teaching assistant and or with me if you need any kind of accommodations or adjustments. Okay, that's almost it. I would like to almost finally point you to a statement that I put on Canvas on inclusiveness and what kind of culture I would like to cultivate for all of us in this classroom and in your discussion sections. I'm going to just read it aloud, but you can also read it there whenever you want to. I say, in this class, I will respect you and your right to speak and learn in your own way, regardless of your gender, race, religion, region, appearance, disabilities, or sexual orientation. I will protect your right to express yourself and your ideas as long as they do not themselves express disrespect or aggression towards other people. I also expect you to do the same for me and for your fellow students. In particular, I, and your TAs as well, respect your right to be called whatever you want to be called, because we understand that for all of us, social recognition of our sense of self is key to our own integrity and flourishing. I expect everyone in this class to do the same. In particular, if you would like to be called by a specific pronoun or name that might not be obvious from your official school records, just please let me and or your TA know. Okay, that's it for organizational stuff that I can think about. You should go to your sections this week and ask your TAs any questions that you have about the syllabus or anything to do with the class that wasn't covered here, and just make sure your TA knows that you're in the class. I'm sorry to say this, but a couple of the TAs are also at the same conference that I'm at. We're all stuck with the same problem. But if you go to your class as scheduled, there will either be another TA there to help you if your TA is gone, or there will be information about which room to go to so that you can have a TA for that first week. And I really promise you that after this first week, it will be much less chaotic and everybody will be where they're supposed to be and everything will even out. Please remember that you do have a reading assignment for next week. You need to read the Dennett article and the Greg Egan story by next weekend, by Sunday the 13th, let's say. They're both already on Canvas. All the readings are already on Canvas. The quiz on the Dennett and the Egan will be available on Sunday, and you need to finish it by the following Monday's class. So by class on January the 13th, you need to have done the reading quiz. That's when I will shut down the quiz. Okay, I'm sorry, I said that wrong. The quiz will be available on Sunday the 13th and the morning of Monday the 14th. And we meet on the 14th, and I will shut the quiz down just before class starts on the 14th. Okay? So I'll meet you in person on the 14th. And one more time, I apologize for the chaotic first week. It wasn't any of our faults, but I do feel bad about it. And I'm looking forward to a really exciting term. I love the readings and topics that I've picked. I think they're all a ton of fun. I hope you'll find them fun too, and we'll have a great term. Thanks. See you on the 14th.